coming in? Do I need to turn this on?
Check.
Oh.
Should be there we go. Switch.
Oh, thank you, yeah. Okay. I'm just getting to that age where I have to look over my glasses to see better sometimes. All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Grant Testu, and I am so thrilled to be here. Man, last night got me in the spirit of this whole weekend, and thanks again to Shane this morning. Oh, get a little feedback. How am I doing? I'm okay. I'm coming in hot. All right, and thanks for that too, Shane. And to the Holiness Singers, I'm going to call you guys that. Was that this group here? Or yeah. So, thank you for the as well for the help this morning. Ah, that's better. Okay, a little more conversational, a little less Moses. Right? Okay. Yeah. We will leave that part to God. All right. So we're engaging with holiness this weekend. And man, when Barry first reached out to me and gave me the invitation to come and speak to you all on this topic, I said, I don't know if you know this, man, but I geek out about holiness. I love this topic. It was not always this way for me. If you looked at my bio in the handout, I'm a languages guy and a biblical studies guy. I love the biblical text, and I love looking at the biblical text in their original languages and trying to unpack the original voice in its cultural setting of the biblical authors, trying to understand them better so that I can better understand their encounters with God. But for a number of years, well into my own graduate studies, I was plagued by a few different words that still puzzled me, even in the English language, that I just felt I couldn't define. And if you're a languages nerd, that's like a brainworm. Just, you can't let it go. Words like art, right? What is art? Don't get me started, because I can't finish. I don't know the answer to that question, right? What is poetry? We know it's not just the stuff that rhymes, although that's included in there. It's so much more complex than that, though, isn't it? Art, poetry, beauty, some of the deepest things that matter to us, we have a hard time pinning down with satisfying definitions. And wouldn't you know it, for many, many years, holiness was that to me too. And if I'm honest today, I would even tell you it still is, but somebody helped me in my own journey to make me feel okay with that. The fact that holiness eludes me just like definitions of art and poetry do. So I may point over to my friend here, Scotland, whenever I can have you turn. That'd be great. Not just yet. All right. First of all, let's all admit we've heard the language of holiness in our churches. And we have some, at least beginning definitions for it, right? Can you guys indulge me a little bit? Free association time. I say holy, word or phrases that pop into your heads. Go. Holy.
God. Weighty.
God. Weighty, I heard, right?
Set apart.
Set apart. Does that ring a bell for a few people, right? Set apart. I even heard Phil use that last night. Other terms.
Sanctified.
Sanctified, yeah.
Clean.
Clean, yeah, thank you. Does that resonate with a lot of people, right? Clean, set apart. Any others you want to throw in?
Purity.
Purity, yeah. Same kind of arena as clean, right? Clean, pure, maybe even good, like ultimate goodness might register as holiness to us. And these were some of my own definitions. Again, if you've grown up in a church context especially, you will have a set of tools, a set of language to try to describe this complex term. But it is still something that eludes us, I think, if we admit to ourselves. Take, for example, this illustration. All right? 2 cups of coffee, side by side. Let's set one apart, if we may. Now, that one on the left is holy. Probably not, right? You can actually click it too. I forgot. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it doesn't register as all that holy to us. Now, I've set it apart, and isn't that language I use for holiness? Don't many of us, right? Set apart. But it's something more, right? Because, just because I set that 1 cup of coffee apart from the other that alone doesn't make it holy. We also use terms like goodness. Maybe it's a good cup of coffee. Maybe it's a clean brew, it's pure. Does that make it holy? Garfield doesn't seem to think so. This is pretty mundane stuff for him, right? Here's the thing. I was lost in a tailspin trying to figure out what does this word holy mean for years. And then I ran into this book by Rudolf Otto. Looks like a fun guy. Give him a chance. Okay. His famous volume, The Idea of the Holy, he wrote it in the early 20th century, had escaped my attention for the longest time. If any of you are fans of reading the occasional theology book, I know Mason is, you will probably run into his name eventually. Or this term that he coined, numinous. We'll come back to that. But the title of the book says it all. This guy is going to be talking about holiness. And so I stumbled into this author's writings in the midst of my grad studies, actually when I was preparing for my comprehensive exams, so I was trying to find anything to do but that. And as I read his book, he unpacked holiness for me in a way that I found so helpful. He said, you want to know why you have had trouble defining it and why terms like set apart, clean, good, moral, all seem to fall short of what we mean by holiness? He said, here's why. Holiness means the indefinable. It means the ineffable. It's a great word. The inexpressible. What there are no words for. And then I said, oh, thank you, Otto. You made it so much easier for me. It's the word that means nothing. It's the word that means, right? It transcends all of my abilities to describe and instead fills me with awe because I lack description. That is the meaning of holiness. That's what he suggested. Whether it be the Hebrew kadosh, which we talked about last night, you may not have known it, but when Isaiah is brought into the throne room of Yahweh, he hears these seraphim chanting to each other, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Holy, holy, holy is Yahweh of hosts. Or whether it be the Greek, hagios, right? That you'll find in the New Testament to describe God. Or whether it's the Latin sanctus or sacer, sanctified, I think I heard when I brought up that term holy. That's where we get it from, the Latin version of holiness. So whatever language you might be talking about, whatever corner of the world, every culture seems to have some respective word to hint at holiness. But we've got to be careful. I say hint because none of these words ever fully capture what we're talking about. And that's the point. So if you've ever felt frustrated with holiness, you're in good company this weekend. I'm frustrated with it too. But now I've learned to live with that. And I'm there for the roller coaster ride. Take me, Lord. All right? Holiness. So let's turn to the next slide. this is what Rudolf Otto did. Because holiness, he felt, had sometimes been too domesticated, and maybe most especially, as he suggests, in Jewish and Christian circles, we have grown too accustomed to thinking of it as the same thing as goodness, like ultimate morality, or ultimate cleanness, purity. He said, holiness did not originally mean these things. Therefore, he said, I'm going to coin a new term for holiness, just so that we can maybe recapture some of the mystery of the term. And so he said, I'm going to call it numinous. Have any of you run into this term before? I bet you have. It comes from the Latin numen, meaning a divine nod. Like when the Roman god Jupiter might hear some case brought before his divine throne, and then he gives his nod of assent. So may it be. And from that, eventually in Latin, numen came to be yet another term for a deity as well, right? So it means essentially the divine. And so numinous is the divine or the holy. Or to add some other terms that are getting closer to how I'm trying to describe it to you today, numinous means the uncanny. I grew up on the Uncanny X-Men. I don't know about any of you, but uncanny is a great word. It comes from the German unkannig, meaning not knowable. Okay? A mystery, for example, but not like the detective mysteries that are so popular on BritBox and all that. I'm talking about a mystery that is inscrutable, unsolvable, even if I put all my mental energies towards solving it. Good luck, you'll never get it, right? That kind of a mystery. Or the original meaning of what is awful. Now, these days, awful just means bad, right? Negative, right? The original meaning of awful is what might feel terrible, as in terrifying, but more importantly, it's what fills you with awe, with wonder. That is holy. Or sublime, another great term. Yeah, coming from the Latin for looking up under the limen, under the threshold of your door, up toward the heavens. Sublime. Transcendent, that one's all over the place. Everybody understands that, right? Transcendent. And Otto also uses this term a lot, non-rational. Now we have to be careful here. Non-rational is not the same thing as irrational. Irrational just means dumb, stupid, all right? Non-rational means not operating in the realm that your reason can go, right? It is beyond our ability to ration. All right, does this make a little more sense? That's holiness for you. No wonder we couldn't put a pin in it, because it was meant to be beyond us from the start. Can we turn to the next one? Here's another way that Otto defined it. And yeah, sorry, it might not be as legible, but he defined it with a Latin phrase, mysterium tremendum et fascinans. And what this means is a mystery that is tremendum, that makes you tremble, but it's also fascinans. That's what gives us the word fascinate, right? It lures us in. We can't help ourselves, like a moth to a flame. In the passage that was just read for us moments ago, remember in Moses' initial encounter with the holy God, he just thinks he's going about his mundane daily business with the flocks, when lo and behold, he sees this burning bush, but not a typical kind of burning bush. This thing is not consumed. And it might be frightening. I mean, fire can hurt, but he can't help himself. He's drawn to it. He even says, let me turn aside and see what this thing is. So, this is what Otto says the holy is. It is a phenomenon that is both utterly terrifying. It shakes us to our core, and at the same moment, like the famous lines go, it hurts so good, right? I can't help myself. I feel drawn to it, not even knowing what's going to happen if I get closer. Here's another way to think of this, right? Our daily life is lived out in a sort of box like you see here, societal order, right? It's a lot of our unquestioned assumptions about the way the world works. Like when I drove here this morning, light turns red, I stop, okay? That's just how we do, okay? And societal order is necessary for societies to be preserved. We've got to follow certain agreed upon rules for everybody's mutual benefit. Sometimes societal order breaks down, and that can mean many things. If you leave the confines of your society and how they make sense of the world, you might find freedom, for one thing. This is one reason why I'm initially drawn to some of those zombie apocalypse type shows and movies. Just the initial concept. What if society broke down and I could just walk into a 7-Eleven whenever I wanted and grab whatever I wanted? Don't mind if I do. But there's also insecurity outside of society's boxes. In other words, that police force that used to make sure the law was kept, they're not there. So yes, I can take whatever I want, but somebody can take whatever they want from me too. Outside of the box is also where you might best encounter the numinous, the holy. Think again about where Moses encounters God for the first time, not by his own doing, not by his choosing. It's out in the wilderness with his flocks, right? And also outside the confines of society is the unclean. Now, I'll talk a little bit more about this on Sunday morning, but I want to give you a foretaste. Remember, so far we have said holiness is not the same thing as goodness. Hear me correctly. It doesn't mean that God is not good. Absolutely, he is the greatest good. He gives us the standards for goodness. But holiness as an adjective, or holy as an adjective, does not mean good, okay? It means, right? And holiness does not mean cleanness either. Cleanness has to do with propriety, everything in its right place. If I take a cooking pan from the kitchen and I put it on my clothes drawer in my bedroom, feels kind of off, doesn't it? Feels a little gross. Nothing to do with hygiene necessarily, assuming my dresser top is clean, but it's not in its right place. It feels off, right? So cleanness in societies, every society has their version of clean and unclean. It means everything is where it should be. To demonstrate that holiness is not the same thing as cleanness, consider something that's often forgotten about that Moses episode. We didn't have it read for us this morning, but soon after Moses' first encounter with Yahweh in the burning bush, Yahweh tells Moses to place his hand in his cloak. He's about to show him something. And then he removes his hand, and what's the condition of his hand? Covered with leprosy. As Phil talked about last night, leprosy, according later on in the book of Leviticus, to those rules given by Yahweh, is an unclean condition that Israel is given certain commands how to deal with. Who made Moses leprous? Yahweh did. And this is in the same spot where Moses had just been told, remove your shoes, remove your sandals. This is holy ground. It's not just a reference to cleanness as we might imagine, but it means treat this ground not like all the other ground out there that's just ordinary. This ground is special. You've had a holy encounter here. That's what's being said. So yeah, God in his holiness can actually do things that are unclean. More on this on Sunday. But let's take a look at a further episode in the book of Exodus, where this time it's not just Moses, but all of Israel, having recently been brought out of Egypt by their God and his mighty hand. And now it is Israel, the nation's turn, to have their own numinous encounter with the God of Israel, Yahweh. And you can see the text for yourself. And I love that some of you are following along. This is great. In the 3rd month after the children of Israel had left the land of Egypt, on that day they entered the wilderness of Sinai. They set out from Rephidim and entered the wilderness of Sinai, where they camped in the wilderness. Israel camped there across from the mountain. This, by the way, is the same place, the same mountain, where Moses had encountered Yahweh in the burning bush. Same place. Moses went up to God, and Yahweh called to him from the mountain, saying, "This is what you shall say to the house of Jacob, what you shall tell the children of Israel. You yourself have seen what I did to Egypt when I lifted you on eagle's wings and brought you to me. Now, if you will, in fact, obey me and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession out of all the peoples. Though all the earth is mine, it is you, Israel, who shall be my kingdom of priests and holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the children of Israel." Let's pause here for a moment and consider what's happening. So this is after the children of Israel have already seen many of the miracles of their God, a God that they might have even forgotten about in the generations when they were held as slaves in Egypt. You can presume they had lost some connection with their ancestral roots and the God that their ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob served. But now that God has shown up again for them, and they know that for themselves. They have seen his wonders. They saw his plagues upon Egypt, which were read in Exodus 12, verse 12, as a judgment not just upon Pharaoh and the whole political system of Egypt, but even upon the gods of Egypt. I don't know if you've seen in museums or at least on TV some of the depictions of the Egyptian gods. They look numinous themselves. They look impressive and daunting. And Yahweh had shown his own numinous nature, his own holy nature, by judging even them. And so his people have seen the holiness of their God already. They're about to see it yet again in an even more striking manner on Mount Sinai. But so far, they come to this place where they're getting ready for that holy encounter. Let's go to the next part here, if you will. So Moses came and summoned the elders of the people, and he laid out before them these terms as Yahweh had instructed them. Remember, Yahweh had just said, "Go down to Israel and tell them, all the nations are mine, but I'm going to make you, if you're willing, a holy people." Okay? So Moses passes on that language. All the people answered in unison and said, "All that Yahweh has spoken, we will do." Then Moses brought back the people's response to Yahweh. Pause here again. Remember, by this point in the narrative, Israel has seen the holiness of their God. They've seen how frightening he can be, what he did to Pharaoh and his armies, how the state in which he left the land of Egypt, decimated, right? They had seen this is indeed a holy, mind-boggling God. They had seen him split the Red Sea, allowing them to walk across on dry land. Nothing they could ever imagine to have happened had just happened. That is true holiness, right? That stuff I lack words for, right? Imagine yourselves walking with them through the sea. Could you adequately describe that? As many words as you might put to later generations who weren't there for it, wouldn't you imagine you'd say, "No, but you still don't get it." Right? It was too powerful for me. Like the feeling sometimes we have when we are swept up in our worship to God. Something I've already experienced this weekend, I love. Right? There are no words for the why of it. And I love, Shane, when you brought up that question last night, right? Why? Why? In terms of holiness, we could even ask, why not? Why not? Music just compels me. That is a holy experience. So it defies our reason, it defies our words, and yet we're still going to try because it's too good to to not want to explain or try to figure out more, at least to be in the presence of. But here's the amazing thing that has just been proposed to Israel. This holy God, you don't have to convince them, is now telling this people, guess what? You can be a holy nation. A gulp, right? Zoinks. I can't imagine. Not me, right? Us, not our people. Not even in this room. It defies our logic even here, right? I mean, I love you all, but, you know, do you ever feel that? It's like, holiness, not for me. Like Phil was talking about with us last night. Surely not me. Absolutely. By the will of God, that is the invitation. You get to be, in other words, if we go back to the original meaning of holiness, you get to be, he doesn't mean pure when he says you should be a holy nation. He doesn't mean good when he says holy nation, although he will expect them to follow his good commands. But when he says you shall be a holy nation, he means you shall be an uncanny people. Nobody will be able to figure you out. You will be transcendent. You will be marvelous and awe-inspiring. What an honor when you think about it, right? Notice as well, and this is fascinating, this is the holy God here talking after all, right? The holy God doesn't say, you're going to be holy because I say so, and I created the universe anyway. Well, what are you going to do? He offers them terms. He offers them an agreement, a pact, if they're willing to make it. And what do the people say? Yeah, we don't need convincing. We're on board. You're saying we can be holy? Let's do this. Where do I sign? It's powerful stuff when you pause to think about it. All right, let's keep going here. Yahweh said to Moses, I am going to come to you in the obscurity of the clouds, so that the people may hear when I speak with you, and also that they might forever trust you. Then Moses told the people's response to Yahweh. Yahweh said to Moses, go to the people and sanctify them. This comes from the same root as the word holy in Hebrew. All right, so make them holy today and tomorrow. They must wash their cloaks and be prepared for the third day. For on the third day, Yahweh will come down onto Mount Sinai in the eyes of all the people. You must cordon off the people with a perimeter and say, keep yourselves from going up onto the mountain or touching its border. Whoever touches the mountain will in fact be put to death. No hand must touch it, otherwise they will surely be stoned or shot through. Whether livestock or human, they will not live. When the ram's horn is blown, then they may go up on the mountain. Moses went down from the mountain to the people and sanctified the people. Then they washed their clothes, and he said to the people, be prepared in 3 days. Do not approach a woman. Now, we have here in this preparation part of the narrative, some of those elements that have added to the confusion of believers over the centuries. The confusion that causes us to imagine holiness is the same thing as purity. You notice the purification elements, right? They wash their clothes. They avoid intercourse for a few days, right? They are preparing themselves for their own holy encounter with Yahweh. But make no mistake, again, this is the same God who can make leprosy happen, an unclean thing, in his own presence. This is not just tidying up. It's a way of helping them mentally prepare to transition into the place where they're staying as not an ordinary place. Right? So when we go through certain rituals, like washing, it can help us take on a different frame of mind. We're physical creatures after all, right? So this helps us. There's something very similar you can see in Shinto shrines in Japan. When worshipers go to a shrine where they are there to venerate a kami, some kind of presence that is felt to be in that place, worshipers will come upon, at the entrance to the shrine, a little wash area that has these ladles in running water, and they take the ladle and they put it over their hands. Right? Now, This is nothing to do with modern medicine and, killing microbes or anything like that. This is just an act that is ages old in Japan, and it's a way of saying, I recognize I'm entering new territory. This is like saying, I'm not in Kansas anymore. I get it, right? So think of it that way. As the Israelites prepare themselves, that's their way of saying, this ain't Kansas. This ain't Oklahoma either, right? This is holy ground, an experience that Moses himself already knew full well. Let's keep going. On the third day, when it was morning, there were peals of thunder and flashes of lightning, and a dense cloud was over the mountain. There was a very loud trumpet sound, and all the people who were in the camp shuddered. There's that idea of mysterium tremendum et fascinans, right? Oh my goodness, this is too scary. Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stood at the base of the mountain. All of Mount Sinai was smoking because Yahweh had come down on it in fire. Its smoke went up like the smoke of a kiln, and the entire mountain shuddered violently. It's actually the same verb for what the people did. So the people shake in their boots, and the mountain shakes in its boots, so to speak. They're both quaking. That's amazing stuff, right? The sound of the horn was growing ever louder. Moses would speak and God would answer him in thunder. Yahweh came down on Mount Sinai to the top of the mountain. Then Yahweh summoned Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. Now, it just takes a few words to say something that should shock us. Where did Moses go? Yeah, and what's happening up on the mountain? Yeah. Like, everything that makes for like AAA blockbuster summer hit, big explosions and flame, thick black smoke that obscures any kind of way of seeing God. And he is invited to enter that kind of fire, like a moth to a flame. Maybe Moses has enough confidence by this point in the narrative, however, because after all, at the same location earlier, he had seen a bush ablaze with divine fire that was not eaten up by that fire. So maybe Moses had the insider's scoop, and he said, okay, all right. I would imagine Moses is also a little shaken by this whole encounter too. But when you are called by God, you go. And this is the same God who is saying to his people, including Moses, I'm going to make you holy as I am holy. That, in fact, becomes a refrain in the book of Leviticus, the next book in the Pentateuch. So, Moses gulps and goes up that mountain. Let's go to the next part. Then Yahweh said to Moses, go down and impress upon the people that they not break through to Yahweh to see him, or many of them will fall. Even the priests are supposed to be holy men, right? Even the priests who approach Yahweh must sanctify themselves so that Yahweh does not explode them. This is my translation, and I bet none of you have a translation you're looking at right now that says explode, but can I have your help, if you don't mind? I will not make you drink gasoline like Phil did last night. But if you do this over your head, thank you. All right, and then I'm short, so help me out. There we go. So this is what the verb means in Hebrew. Oh, help me out here. I don't know about you, that seems like explosion to me. So deal with it. All right, that's what that means. All right, if people are not prepared and they step forward, it's like in the way that we warn children, stay away from live wires. Can electricity do a lot of good? Yes, but it's also powerful and very dangerous and can kill you if not handled appropriately. That's the warning here. It'll explode you. Okay. Then Moses said to Yahweh, the people are not able to go up on Mount Sinai because you yourself have warned them, cordon off the mountain and sanctify it. Yahweh said to him, go down and come up, you and your brother Aaron with you, but the priests and the people may not break through to come up to Yahweh, otherwise he will explode them. So Moses went down to the people and spoke to them. That's it. And By this point in the narrative, we're not going to read any further, but we are getting ready then for the giving of the covenant. Something that we tend to focus on as the law of God, and make no mistake, there are laws in it. But even more importantly, and I tell my students in Bible textual classes all the time, what happens at Sinai even more is a pact, an agreement. Did you notice, again, we read it for ourselves today, Yahweh offers terms. He does not force Israel's hand. He says, do you want to be my chosen people, a holy nation? All the nations belong to me. Do you want to be my special nation? And they say, yeah, we will follow your commands. We will walk in them and be your holy people. And so it's an invitation. It's also important, especially for Christians, to understand, and this is very relatable to us as Christians who say we are saved not by our perfect keeping of the law, but by God's grace. Did you notice that Israel in the Exodus story had also been saved? In their case, they were saved from Egypt. Now, did they merit that? Did they earn that saving work of God? Not any place that I noticed when I read the text, right? That was all God's choosing. He chose them because He had already picked them as His people long ago through their ancestors. And He saw their plight, and He wanted to help them. So it was to their advantage that a holy, indescribable, beyond ration, beyond reason kind of God took notice of them and saved them. And if that weren't enough, and it would be enough, after saving them from slavery and oppression, that same God says, guess what? You get to be holy too. And the rest of Israel's story in the Hebrew Bible or Old Testament is the working out of that complicated relationship, right? If Israel had Facebook back in the days, and the relationship status with Yahweh would probably read, it's complicated. It's not always sunshine and roses, okay? And those that were introspective enough would say, and that's on us, I get it. Okay? But the invitation is irresistible. Like I said, it's like a moth to a flame. That flame will burn you. It can. And sometimes God's flame does burn people, like Nadab and Abihu, right? But Israel counts it worth the risk, worth the cost, to step into that fire with Moses, in a manner of speaking, and try to negotiate what it is to be a holy people. And it is certainly no different for those who are called in Christ, who qualifies us to be saints. Every believer, right, in Christ is a saint. And that's just another word for holy. Not by my doing, not by your doing, but by a holy, inscrutable God. Fascinating stuff. All right, I'm all set.